Chapter 5 The Material and Sources of Dream. Infertile experience as the source of dream. Infertile experience as the source of dream. In yet another case, it may be definitely established, without the aid of dream interpretation, that the dream contains elements from childhood, namely, if the dream is a so-called perennial dream, one which, being first dreamed in childhood, recurs again and again in older years. I may add a few examples of this sort to those already known, although I have no personal knowledge of perennial dreams. In yet another case, it may be definitely established, without the aid of dream interpretation, that the dream contains elements from childhood, namely, if the dream is a so-called perennial dream, one which, being first dreamed in childhood, recurs again and again in adult years. I may add new examples of this sort to those already known, although I have no personal knowledge of perennial stream. A physician in his 30s tells me that a yellow line concerning which he is able to give the precisest information has often appeared in his dream life from his earliest childhood up to the present day. The line known to him from his dreams was one day discovered in nature as a long-forgotten China animal. The young man then learned from his mother that the lion had been his favorite toy in early childhood, a fact which he himself could no longer remember. A physician in his 30s tells me that a yellow line concerning which he is able to give the precisest information has often appeared in his dream life from his earliest childhood up to the present day. This line, known to him from his dreams, was one day discovered in nature as a long-forgotten China animal. The young man then learned from his mother that the lion had been his favorite toy in early childhood, a fact which he himself could no longer remember. If we now turn from the manifest dream content to the dream thoughts, which are revealed only on analysis, the experiences of childhood may be found to recur even in dreams whose content would not have led us to suspect anything of the sort. I owe a particular delightful and instructive example of such a dream to my esteemed colleague of the Yellow Lion. After reading Nelson's account of his polar expedition, he dreamed that he was giving the intrepid explorer electrical treatment on an ice floe for the sciatica sciatica, of which the latter complained. During the analysis of this dream, he remembered an incident of his childhood, without which the dream would be wholly unintelligible. If we now turn from the manifest dream content to the dream thoughts, which are revealed only on analysis, the experiences of childhood may be found to recur even in dreams whose content would not have led us to suspect anything of sort. I owe a particular delightful and instructive example of such a dream to my esteemed colleague of the Yellow Line. After reading Nelson's account of his polar expedition, he dreamed that he was giving the intrepid explorer electric treatment on the ice floe for the social sciatic, of which the latter complained. During the analysis of this dream, he remembered an incident of his childhood, without which the dream would be wholly unintelligible. When he was 3 or 4 years of age, he was one day listening alternatively to the conversation of his elders. Attentively to the conversation, they were talking of exploration. And he presently asked his father whether exploration was a bad illness. He had apparently confounded raisin journey trips with raisin grapes, tear pains, and the derision of his brothers and sisters prevented his ever forgetting the humiliating experience. When he was 3 or 4 years of age, he was one day listened attentively to the conversation of her elders. They were talking of exploration, and he presently asked his father whether exploration was a badly illness. He had apparently confounded reason with reason, and the derision of his brother and sisters prevented his ever forgetting the humiliating experience. In another series of dreams, we learn from analysis that the very wish which was given rise to the dream, and whose fulfillment the dream proves to be, has itself arranged in childhood, so that one is astonished to find that childhood, with all his impulse, survives in the dream. In another series of dreams, we learn from analysis that the very wish which was given rise to the dream, and whose fulfillment the dream proves to be, has itself originated in childhood, so that one is astonished to find that the child, with all his impulse, survives in the dream. I shall now continue the interpretation of a dream which has already proved instructive. I refer to the dream in which my friend R is my uncle. We have carried its interpretation far enough for the wish motive, the wish to be appointed professor, to assert itself palpably, and we have explained the affection felt for my friend R in the dream as the outcome of opposition to and defiance of. The two colleagues who appear in the dream thought the dream was my own. I may therefore continue the analysis by stating that I did not feel quite satisfied with the solution arrived at. I shall now continue the interpretation of a dream which has already proved instructive. I refer to the dream in which my friend R is my uncle. We have carried its interpretation far enough for the main wish motive, the wish to be appointed professor. We have carried its interpretation far enough for the wish motive, the wish to be appointed professor, to assert itself publicly, and we have explained the affection felt for my friend R in the dream and the outcome of opposition to and defiance of the two colleagues who appears in the dream thoughts. The dream was my own. I may therefore continue the analysis by stating that I did not feel quite satisfied with the solution arrived at. I knew that my opinion of these colleagues who were so badly treated in my dream thoughts would have been expressed in very different language in my waking life. The intensity of the wish that I might not share their fate as regards the appointment seemed to me too slight folly to account for the discrepancy between my dream opinion and my waking opinion. If the desire to be addressed by another title were really so intense, it would be proof of morbid ambition, which I do not think I cherish, and which I believe I was far from entertaining. I do not know how others who think they know me would judge me. Perhaps I really was ambitious, but if I was, my ambition has long since been transferred to objects other than the rank and title of professors extraordinarius. I knew that my opinion of these colleagues who were so badly treated in my dream thoughts would have been expressed in very different language in my waking life. The intensity of the wish that I might not share their fate as regards the appointment seemed to me too slight folly to account for the discrepancy between my dream opinion and my waking opinion. The intensity of the wish that I might not share their fate as regards the appointment seemed to me too slight folly to account for the discrepancy between my dream opinion and my working opinion. If the desire to be addressed by another title were really so intense, if the desire to be addressed by another title was really so intense, it would be proof of morbid ambition, which I do not think cherish, and which I believe I was far from entertaining. I do not know how others who think they know me would judge me. Perhaps I really was ambitious, but if I was, my ambition has long since been transferred to objects other than the rank and the title of Professor Extraordinarius. The intensity of the wish that I might not share their faith as regards the appointment seemed to me too fully to account for the discrepancy between my dream opinion and my wake opinion. The deeper we go into the analysis of dreams, the more often we are put the track of childish experience which play the part of dream source in the latent dream content. The deeper we go into the analysis of dreams, the more often we are put on the track of childish experience which play the part of dream sources in the latent dream content. The deeper we go into the analysis of dreams, the more often we are put to the track of childish experience which play the part of dream sources in the latent dream content. We have learned that dreams very rarely reproduce memories in such a manner as to constitute unchanged and unaveraged the sole manifest dream content. Nevertheless, a few authentic examples which show such reproduction have been recorded, and I can add a few new ones which once more refer to scenes of childhood. In the case of one of my patients, a dream once gave a barely distorted reproduction of a sexual incident, which was immediately recognized as an accurate recollection. Accurate. We have learned that dreams very rarely reproduce memories in such a manner as to constitute unchanged and unaveraged the sole manifest dream content. Nevertheless, a few authentic examples which show such reproduction have been recorded, and I can add a few new ones which once more refer to scenes of childhood. In the case of one of my patients, a dream once gave a barely distorted reproduction of a sexual incident, which was immediately recognized as an accurate recollection. The memory of it had never been completely lost in the waking life, but it had been greatly obscured, and it was revived by the previous work of analysis. The dreamer had, at the age of 12, visited a bedridden schoolmate who had exposed himself, probably only by a chance moment in bed. At the sight of the boy's genitals, he was seized by a kind of compulsion, exposed himself, and took hold of the member of other boy, who, however, looked at him in surprise and indignation. Whereupon he became embarrassed and let it go. A dream repeated this scene 23 years later with all the details of the accompanying emotions. changing 8, however, in this respect, that the dreamer played the passive instead of an active role, while the person of the schoolmates were replaced by contemporary. The memory of 8 had never been completely lost in waking life, but it had been greatly obscured, and it was revivified by the previous work of analysis. The dreamer had at the age of 12 visited a bedridden schoolmate who had exposed himself, probably only by a chance moment in bed, at the sight of the boy's genitals. At the sight of the boy's genitals, he was seized by a kind of compulsion, exposed himself, and took hold of the member of the other boy, who, however, looked at him in surprise and indignity, whereupon he became embarrassed and let it go. A dream repeated these scenes 23 years later, with all the details of the accompanying emotions changing 8. However, in this respect, that the dreamer played the passive instead of the active role, while the person of the schoolmate was replaced by a contemporary. As a rule, of course, a scene from childhood is represented in the manifest dream content only by illusion, and must be disentangled from the dream by interpretation. The citation of examples of this kind cannot be very convincing, because any granted that their real experience of childhood are lacking, if they belong to an earlier period of life, they are no longer recognized by our memory. The conclusion that such childish experiences recur at all dreams is justified in psychoanalytic work by a great number of factors, which in their combined results appear to be sufficiently reliable. As a rule, of course, a scene from childhood is represented in the manifest dream content only by an illusion, and must be disentangled from the dream by interpretation. The citation of examples of this kind cannot be very convicting, because any guarantee that their real experience of childhood are lacking. If they belong to an earlier period of life, they are no longer recognized by our memory. The conclusion that such childish experiences recur at all in dreams is justified in work by a great number of factors, which in their combined results appeared to be sufficiently reliable. If the dream is so-called a perennial dream, will it recur in adult years? Which is not the physician feeling after listening to the over conversation of this elder impulse. which is not a manner to reproduce memories from our dream. We have learned that dreams are very low, rarely produced in such a manner as to consider unchanged our manifest dream content.